This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1648, Previews!
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Brian Chrisman.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Chris Eberly.
Comic Geek Speak.
Oh, I so wish we recorded video.
Well, you're sitting right there! You can do it!
If I only knew what button to press.
The record button! Oh my god!
The point is just the things Chris does to get loose during the opening theme music. We could put together one hell of a dance montage.
Well, then do it the next time, for God's sake!
I think it's too kind to call it dancing, but thank you.
Well, anyway... Welcome to the show. It's been a little while since we've had a regular CGS episode, so there may be some announcements and some comic talk-ish stuff thrown into the previews as I make the hand gestures. So forewarned is forearmed. Mm-hmm. But first, as always, with these previews episodes, a word from our sponsor. To find people at Discount Comic Book Service, dcbservice.com, to go to for all of your pre-ordering needs. Whenever you pre-order from them any DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, or Image title, they are right away 40% off the cover price. Most of your other publishers are between 20 and 35% off cover price. They also run many specials for issues where they'll be up to 45, 50, 60, even sometimes 75% off cover price. They have many bundles where they will put together many like comics for one low price. They have many Rebirth bundles going on this month, some DC Hanna-Barbera bundles, kids bundles. And of course, they continue the great tradition. When you pre-order from any new DC or Marvel trade or hardcover, they are right away 50% off the cover price. Again, like many specials, you can get your shipping weekly, twice monthly, or monthly. Bags and boards, they're great people. We've used them for a long time. We love them. You know them. We can't live without them. I can't live without them, quite frankly. The Discount Comic Book Service, dcbservice.com.
And I want to point out, I put in my first DCB service order last month. It was easy peasy. Wonderful service. I'm looking forward to getting my first shipment from them in May.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, let's start out with a couple things. First of all, coming up probably later this week as this episode goes out, happening in Chicago is the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, otherwise known as C2E2. It's April 21st, 2nd, and 3rd, and Adam and I will be there. We won't have a booth. We'll be wandering around aimlessly, or actually looking for back issues and artists and what have you there.
Yeah, we'll be anchoring ourselves near the Benson Sisters.
That's correct. If you want a good place to find us would be at the Benson Sisters table, Julie and Shauna. There will be an Artist Alley at booth P7. They'll have copies of their new trade, Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, Volume 1, Who is Oracle. We'll have some of those for sale, and we're happy to sign them for you. Then 2 weeks after that, Saturday, May 6th, is Free Comic Book Day.
Yes.
And myself and Adam and maybe other CGS alumni will be heading up to Wild Pig Comics in Kenilworth, New Jersey at 14 South Michigan Avenue for their celebration. And Chris is the proprietor. Tell us what you got lined up for us, sir.
Thanks for the setup, Jordash. Now, and by the way, I have to credit my old friend Dan Cangilla. He came up with that one.
Okay.
Danny, thank you, because I visited him this past weekend in Pittsburgh.
You have writers now for this
He's
stuff?
crowdsourcing.
Well, he gave me a bunch. We'll let those come out as time passes.
Oh, sure. We probably wait for that.
Thank you, my friend, for the setup. Yes, we'll be doing our 18th anniversary spring sale. And as you mentioned, we're going to have a full host of the free comic books that are offered from the various publishers. Actually, last year we'll be offering the free comics since we will be free of Diamond as we get into the latter spring. In addition to that, we're of course going to have our normal sale, which I feel has no real competition when it comes to great selection at very affordable discounts with stuff that's already very low price. So we're going to have, about 30,000 back issues on sale. All back issues will be 25% off. Yes, that means the 50-cent books will be 25% off 50 cents.
Yay!
Pants doing a little shimmy in his seat right now. What is that? What is that, about 37 cents a book?
37.5 cents or two
All
for
right.
75 cents.
I went to the math man for that. Thank you, sir. We're adding in thousands of books throughout this month. I just went out to Pittsburgh this past weekend, went to Ides, picked up several long boxes of great bin filler.
Several long boxes.
Yes.
The Dickens,
And,
you say.
Indeed.
Oh,
and
man.
we're going to have 25% off wall books. We brought wall books back to Wild Pig.
Wall books are back. I'm so excited.
Indeed. 25% off all our used trade paperbacks, most of which are like new. And because we're phasing out products related to our Diamond account, all of our new trades, we have about three or four big bookcases of new trades up front. Those are going to be, just like the old days, 50% off
Holy Christ almighty.
on our new trades. And, of course, we're bringing back the raffle.
Yes! I love the raffle. Oh!
Approximately 3 p.m. And this raffle will be in the name of our dear departed comrade in arms, Jamie D. Half the proceeds will go to the Hero Initiative in his name
Oh, that's
from that raffle.
That's great.
And Pants, I wanted to wet your whistle here and list the items that are going to be in the raffle, if I may.
my whistle is already moist.
I've got a squeegee standing by here. For,
So we're going to have the designed by Jim Lee, the Harley Quinn red, white, and black statue.
Hmm.
We're going to have the Chris Samney Daredevil Artist Edition by IDW.
Oh.
We're going to have the two statues designed by the late, great Darwin Cook. His Superman statue, where Superman is taking flight. It's a beautiful statue.
Oh.
And his Batman black and white statue, both designed by Darwin Cook. I think you'll like this one, Pansy. America's Best Comics Artist Edition from IDW.
Sweet.
Indeed.
Now, is this raffle just for me, or is anybody else able to take part in it? Is it just for me? this
Everybody
raffle?
can take part.
Oh, man. The
I'm
raffle-
looking forward to you buying your staple 52 tickets.
Yeah, I
of
have
course,
the
for
money already put
Suspense.
aside.
We're going to do the recently released Flash by Francis Manapul statue from their DC Designer series. From IDW, their Artisan Edition line, Jack Kirby Pencils and Inks.
Oh.
This is a beautiful book because it reprints in the full black and white pencil glory of the King. I think it's got Demon #1 in it. I think Commandy
Oh,
#1.
yeah. Some new gods in there, I think.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book.
Oh.
Master of Kung Fu, a series I've always touted, the Volume 3 Omnibus from that series. And finally, and this is you probably already had this, Pants, but I thought of you when I picked this up. I got this in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Very good condition.
Uh-huh.
Batman issue 133,
Ooh.
featuring Batwoman, Batmite, and Bathound.
Oh, yeah. No, is that the one where he has like a sign holder going across the screen? Something like that? Not a sign holder. A sign. He's holding a sign. Ace the Bat-Hound?
like he's picketing?
Something like that.
Something like that. I don't have it in front of me, but
Or like
those are going to be the
Nice.
10 items. Well, I may add one or two more things in there, but by then, that's the bulk of the raffle. We're going to also have some door prizes this year. Look, if you love comics, if you're anywhere in the vicinity, if you can make it, come to the shop.
by
May
plane,
6th.
train, or automobile. Just get there.
Yep, doors open at noon. It runs from noon to 6. It's wall-to-wall comics, ladies and gentlemen. It's a celebration of comics. Check out all the original art we have on the walls. This is one of our best events of the year. Looking forward to seeing listeners, I hope. That's May 6th, Wild Pig Comics, 14 South Michigan Avenue, Kenilworth, New Jersey, wildpigcomics.com.
Superb.
Thanks a lot, Bugle Boy.
Stop it.
Copyright Dan Cangelo.
Before we got too far along here, I also wanted to mention that back on April 1st, Adam and I made the trek down to Winchester, Virginia. We went to the Museum of the Shenandoah Valley, where there was an Alex Ross art exhibit.
Ooh.
Superheroes and Superstars, the works of Alex Ross. Actually, it's still going on through May 14th. They had about 100 of his pieces along the walls. Just looking at the stuff up close, the detail on some of these pieces was just tremendous. There was some things in there that I didn't even know he had done. I know there was talk of having a Star Wars, like DC Comics crossover. They had several pieces from that, including a gorgeous Batman Boba Fett piece, which I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yep, from a scrapped Star Wars Justice League crossover.
Yes. That was tremendous. They had several of he made homemade action figures when he was a kid out of like cardboard and tape. Oh, like the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm. And the Invisible Woman was made of nothing but Scotch tape.
Yes. There was a Cyclops there. Oh, just gorgeous. And now when we went down, Alex himself was there doing a signing. And was there a lot of people there.
Yes, just wrapping all the way around the building, sneaking in around the aisles. And it's a good-sized building, too.
Yeah.
It's as small as museums go, but still.
Because I guess Alex Ross is sort of the Greta Garbo of comics. You know, he doesn't really go out
He
much.
wants to be alone.
You don't see him all that often. And this is his only scheduled signing so far of 2017, and there was a lot of people there. And it warmed my heart to see so many people that have come out just to get an autograph of the guy. Because, you know, you hear things about, who's reading comics and now, whatever. But clearly people love the comics and love his work. And we saw so many people there we knew there.
Yeah, or who knew us.
Or, both ways, who knew us. It's like, of course, I was wearing my shirt and pants jacket, so I guess that was a little bit...
you were advertising a little.
A little bit, but... We ran. Let's see. People stopped us. I'm going to give a couple of shout-outs here to Chris Butcher, Eric Hess. I didn't get Josh's last name. We see Josh at Heroes Con. Mm-hmm. He's going to make it to Baltimore this year, he told me. We ran into Sam and Jess. And also, I didn't have a very good signal on my phone when I was in there, so I didn't see some of these things till afterwards. But Keith Knudsen took a picture of us while we were waiting in line. And I'm like, I didn't even know he was there. I don't think I even saw him. So it was great to just chat to so many people. Now, unfortunately, Sal was not there. I would have wanted to see Sal and chat with him. But
we were hoping right up to the last minute that he'd turn up. But he was out west with his family, doing family things. So, we missed him. But we're going to his house this time.
Well, if he's going to be there, because actually during C2E2 that Saturday, Alex is doing an interview talking about some art of comics. Sal's going to that Saturday, so I don't know if we'll see Sal. I'll text him and say, Sal, I didn't see you, you jag off. So that was a great little road trip, and just seeing so many people there. Just first signature. And he was supposed to be there for like 3 hours. He must be there at least 5 hours from what I hear, just still sign everybody was gone, which is very heartwarming.
Yeah. Very nice of him to exceed the terms of his original agreement to stick around and accommodate all those folks.
But if you're in the area, it's worth a visit just to check out the artwork there.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so, as Brian said, all the rarities, all the Alex Ross Juvenilia stuff that he did when he was a young man.
Oh, yeah.
That has never been on display before. And there's some pieces of recent art that I had never known existed. He did all kinds of promotional pieces for the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
And there was even I think my favorite piece in the whole exhibit was this big Monty Python mural that he did, which featured characters from the movies, like Brian Cohen of Life and Brian was in there, John Cleese as the taunting French knight from Holy Grail, and there were characters from the Flying Circus series too, like the dead parrot was on there, the nude organist, I think the knight in shining armor with the rubber chicken. It was Terry Gilliam as Cardinal Fang from the Spanish Inquisition. It was just a neat little spot the reference kind of thing, and it's just great eye for detail, great visual sense of humor that Alex Ross has.
Yeah. And maybe my favorite piece, of course, was the Christopher Reeve, Helen Slater homage to Crisis Number 7 cover. I just love that.
Right, Christopher Reeve holding Helen Slater
yes.
in the Supergirl is Dead pose from that cover. And there was another one featuring the George Reeves, Adam West Superman, Adam West Batman, and
Burt Ward Robin.
Right. That's I don't think Linda Carter Wonder Woman was in that same image.
No, she was another one with Christopher Reeve. Batman from the 80s.
Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton and John Wesley Shipp as the Flash.
Oh, right.
You going to get that, Chris?
No, it's always solicitors. So I don't even know why I have a landline anymore.
All
right. About that.
Well, anyway, I've run it on long enough. Let's jump into previews. This is the April previews for items going to stores mostly beginning in June of 2017 AD. Starting, as usual, at Dark Horse.
And speaking for myself, there's several things I'll be buying from Dark Horse this month, but I don't think anything new. Not the kind of things we usually highlight in these previews.
Okay.
episodes.
Well, there's on page 44. There's a new Brian Wood story there, Chris.
Well, this is the new arc for the Briggsland title, which I think I nominated as Best New Series of 2016, if I remember correctly.
I believe you do, Chris.
Yeah, and again, I always effusively sing Brian Wood's praises on this program. It seems like he can tackle any story genre and make it compelling in the comic book medium. Here we have, again, this is about a family that is essentially secessionists who own 100 square miles of forest in upstate New York. They have their own community. They're heavily armed. And it's just about how the matriarch is trying to pull away from the sort of toxic leadership of the patriarch who's in prison. She's trying to kind of take this community a different direction and dealing with her different sons who all have different agendas, some in her favor, some not. It is actually almost like a Shakespearean element to the storytelling. Easily one of the best comics being published today. I can't recommend it enough. So definitely check out Briggsland. I don't think there's a trade out yet of the first arc, but I'm sure there will be soon. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. I'm sorry. Briggsland Volume 1. It was the November code, so that is available. So buy that and then try out the new arc.
And the regular cover for this first issue is 60% off at DC Best, only $1.59.
I also want to mention I just read the first issue of Rebels, These Free and Independent States, which is the sequel to, again, Brian Wood and Andrea Moody, their first series on the Revolutionary War. This takes place in the early 1800s and the United States dealing with Great Britain in the War of 1812. Again, no one quite does comics the way Wood can. I mean, it's a masterful take on the history of the era and its impact on the people of that era. So another high recommendation. Again, Rebels, the first arc, is also available in trade. That's a January 2016 code.
I'm following along with Chris on that Rebels miniseries.
Okay.
Excellent historical fiction there. Black Hammer, naturally.
Right.
Finishing The Visitor, How and Why He Stayed miniseries from Hellboy's World. Speaking of Hellboy and his creator Mike Mignola, the Dark Horse is doing a nice big fat horror anthology this month on page 58. I think, I don't know if any of it is original material, but there's lots of quality reprints to be sure. Some Mike Mignola stuff, Gary Gianni of Monster Men, Evan Dorkin and Jill Thompson's Beast of Burden, which I enjoy. A Kurt Busiek story of some kind. Paul Chadwick, P. Craig Russell. Wow, I mean, I'm not really that big a fan of horror comics, but there's some big names in there.
On page 61, I want to compliment Dark Horse continuing to reprint. They have a license now, the EC Archives. This is incredible science fiction. Again, listen to these names. Oleg, Feldstein, Wood, Orlando, Davis, Williamson. I mean, come on. It's a lot of the foundation. When we think of, cutting-edge comics, edgy comics, comics pushing the envelope, EC is one of the founding fathers of that whole approach as far as I'm concerned. That's on page 61. On page 62, if you're a Grendel fan, as I am, Matt Wagner's Grendel, this omnibus reprints the Grendel Tales series, which is outstanding, which further explores the dystopian future of the world of Grendel. If you've never read the Grendel stories, you want to start with the Hunter Rose stuff, which was produced by
I think it was Comico.
Comico, yep, in the 1980s, and then go forward from there. This is Wagner's, this is one of his masterworks, and I can't recommend it enough. By the way, just as a quick aside, on page 64 and 65, I just read an article in Entertainment Weekly about how it's the 20th anniversary of Buffy the Vampire Slayer debuting on television.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd assembled almost the entire cast,
Mm-hmm.
And they did interviews. It was great to read that, and this is a show that, although I've fallen way behind on the comic, this is a show that was so important to me when it was running. Didn't matter how bad the day might have been. If Buffy was on, everything was just fine. And I salute Dark Horse for continuing to publish the stories of these wonderful characters who, and I always tell people, you love comics, Buffy's a comic book on television. So, and Joss Whedon, as obviously a lifelong comic fan, definitely brought that sensibility to the series. So, praise Buffy.
All right, anything else from Dark Horse?
Not from this guy.
I'm good.
All right, so on to DC.
Where do you want to talk about our first OTR?
I'd be happy to, Chris.
Again, with the abbreviation, sir. Must you abbreviate in front of the listeners?
Off the Racks,
There we go.
which is
I'm sorry, Calvin. Go ahead.
Good God Almighty.
Yep, Off the Racks is our monthly current issue spotlight, and so we always choose, or try to at least, one Marvel book, one DC book, and one independent. And our DC pick for the month of June 2017 is going to be the one that DC is leading off their section of the catalog with, and that is Dark Days: The Forge #1. A one-shot written by Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV, art by Jim Lee, Andy Kubert, John Romita Jr., and others. Oh, that tantalizing "and others" thrown in there. 40 pages, $4.99, and it's got to do with Batman. The word "dark's" in the title, so that sort of gives you a hint already. But it says here that Aquaman, The Flash, and a few other DC characters suspect Batman of hiding a dark secret that could threaten the very existence of the multiverse.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dropping the M word there. So I'm sitting up straight in my chair, and I'm... Yeah, this it sounds like DC is intending this to be sort of like the tentpole, like the lead off, the kickoff comic that's going to lead into some summer events. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be where you get in on the ground floor. Pardon me, and so Comic Geek Speak is going to get on
get on the floor.
I'm trying to say get on board and get on the ground floor. Getting on the bus, travel with the Nowhere Band. It's a WKRP reference for you.
Okay. Whoop, whoop, right over my head, but that's okay. But anyway.
It's the payola episode.
Oh, that's right. Okay. This issue is half off of DCBS, only $2.49.
That's good, because we're going to be ordering copies so that we can review it as one of our off-the-rack picks.
And we should mention to our listeners, we know we're behind and off the racks, but we'll catch up. It takes some time.
Yeah, unfortunately, people have things going on in their lives. We try to record when we can, but we thank you for. We get some nice feedback recently. I've seen on some of the emails and some tweets, whatever. And that's very nice, because sometimes we're in a bubble here, and this is just us talking, and it goes out, and people don't get back to us. We don't know if anybody like, hello, anybody there? So Thank you for the feedback. Yes. We do our best, and we thank you for your patronage.
Yeah, thanks especially to Mr. Sean Strawbridge, who wrote us a very lengthy, positive email recently. So thank you for listening, Sean.
And we take criticism as well. Not very well, but no.
As long as it's constructive.
Yes, exactly.
Poor Pansy's so fragile.
Yes.
I mention this every month because I just think it deserves as much recognition as possible. On page 83, Dan Abnett's Aquaman has been consistently outstanding since the Rebirth version was launched. This is promoting issues 24 and 25. And Abnett and his artists have been building towards this real seismic shift in the politics of Atlantis. This is a very smart book that goes into the geopolitical place of Atlantis in the world. And, the responsibilities that Arthur is facing as both king of that country and also dealing with other nations. And, they've pursued these themes in Aquaman before, but I think Abnett's doing a wonderful job at that. So this is a book I highly recommend if you want to pick up the first trade of the Rebirth series.
I want to point out on page 112, with Wonder Woman 25, that will be the last issue written by Greg Rucka. Yeah, he just announced he's leaving the book, at least for the time being, he says. And he says, I'm quoting from his Tumblr, he goes, before we get to rampant speculation, this is my decision. I just can't maintain the pace on the title while also fulfilling my commitment to my other collaborators. It's genuinely as simple as that. So,
well, I want to salute Mr. Rucka because as much as I'm enjoying his work on Wonder Woman, it's nowhere near as significant to me as what he's doing on Lazarus and now the Old Guard. And Lazarus, to me, is one of the best comic books being produced today. So please, Mr. Rucka, devote as much time to that book as you possibly need because it doesn't get much better than Lazarus. Wow, Batman Elmer Fudd on page 113.
Well, hang on a minute. I'm not done yet, Chachi.
Okay, I'm sorry. Chachi?
I don't know.
He's Jordache. You can be Chachi.
So taking over the writing chores with issue 26 of Wonder Woman is Shea Fontana, who's been working on the DC Superheroes Girls comics.
All right.
So with issue 26, she'll be taking over the title there. Now you can go along there, sir.
It's just hilarious to see Batman team with Elmer Fudd on page 113, written by Tom King. Art covered by Lee Weeks.
Ah, Christ. You see, I didn't notice the artwork right away that was by Lee Weeks. It's like, because I already put my order in. It's like, oh, God,
Yeah, and the creative teams they've scraped together for these things are downright impressive. And there are backup stories in each one of these 5 DC Looney Tunes one-shots. They don't seem to have figured out yet which characters will be appearing in those backups, but at least they have the creative teams in place. So we got Batman, Elmer Fudd. We've got Jonah Hex, Yosemite Sam by Jimmy Palmiotti with art by Mark Teixeira. Legion of Superheroes Bugs Bunny, written by Sam Humphries, with art by Tom Grummett and inks by Scott Hanna.
Look at the creative team on Lobo Roadrunner.
Bill Morrison, best known perhaps for his work on the Bongo Simpsons comics.
Yep.
And Kelly Jones. Just the image
Wow.
of like Wile E. Coyote in space standing there, like showing a wanted poster of the Roadrunner to Lobo. That's going to be terrific. And the backup stories by Bill Morrison too, written and drawn.
I'm most impressed on page 116, the DC Looney Tunes 100-page Super Spectacular, written by Mark Evanier, art by Joe Staton, Mike DiCarlo, and Tom Palmer, cover by Steve Rude. Wow.
Right.
What a package that is.
Yep, that is a reprinting of a 2000 miniseries, which I own, of course, of the first time that
Of course.
DC superheroes and the Looney Tunes characters cross over. The moment I remember best is Foghorn Leghorn going up to Clark Kent and saying, "I say now, son, you got to change into Superman." This is the sort of thing that Mark Evanier excels at. So there is some pretty good humor in that.
On page 123, I want to mention how much I'm enjoying the Commandy Challenge, where each creative team leaves Commandy in a perilous spot, and the new team, the next issue, has to then run with that. I've read the first 2 or 3 issues. Really fun. I mean, obviously, anything that was done by King Kirby demands tribute, and I think they're doing Commandy justice here. I'm really enjoying that miniseries.
On the next page, 124, the Flintstones number 12, it's their final issue.
People are raving about this book. I haven't read it yet.
I know, but then why is it ending? Do we know, was it originally a 12-issue series?
Maybe it was only a 12-issue contractual commitment, but
Okay.
it'll be traded promptly,
Well, yeah,
I'm
like
sure.
the first trade, I think, is either out or been solicited.
Getting a lot of critical acclaim. It's impressing listeners of
'Cause
ours who are not
I've-
that easy to impress.
I mentioned I'd like to read it. Maybe if I find an issue or two in the dollar bins at C2E2, which is my dollar books, I have a list of things to look for, and this will be a couple of them.
And there are going to be apparently a bunch of other more adult-targeted Hanna-Barbera series coming out soon, too. I think those DC Hanna-Barbera crossover one-shots were supposed to be lead-ins to a lot of those.
Okay.
There'll be like a Jetsons and a Snagglepuss and so on. Snagglepuss being written by Mark Russell, who also writes Flintstones.
Anybody ready for trades?
Certainly.
Yeah, sure. And the first couple I'll mention here are actually under the Young Animals section of the book on pages 128 and 129. We've got Volume 1 of the collections of Mother Panic and Shade the Changing Girl, 2 of the new Young Animal pop-up imprint series with female protagonists, both being created in the same month.
I want to mention on page 130 they have Deathstroke Volume 2. This is Christopher Priest taking the character, which, everybody knows I'm a big Priest fan. I think he's doing the character justice. He's building a story. Again, with Priest, you have to be patient and let him, work through the narrative he's weaving. And definitely in the current issues, you're starting to see a wonderful culmination of the plot threads. He's been weaving, so I recommend Deathstroke by Priest. On page 135, Murd, this might be your kind of meat. Elseworlds Justice League Volume 2. Collecting Act of God, JLA 1 through 3, Superman Metropolis 1, Batman Nosferatu 1, and Wonder Woman the Blue Amazon number 1, plus Elseworlds 80-page giant number 1.
Oh, yes, that controversial Elseworlds 80-page giant. I mean, that was a pretty hot collector's item for a little while there.
Is that Superman's babysitter?
Yes,
Yeah.
where
Okay.
a baby
Yeah.
Clark Kent ended up in a microwave, and so
Yes.
DC pulled it didn't release the title here in the States. A few copies got out in the UK.
Yeah, they pulped all the U.S. copies. Eventually, I think it was released as a reprint at some point.
Yeah,
along the
just
way.
with
Yes.
a couple of altered panels.
Yeah.
I have to mention this for Shane, because if he were here, he'd be just in a state of euphoria.
It would be salivating, yes.
Page 137. Shane, they finally did it for you, honey. Justice League by Giffen and DeMatteis, Omnibus Volume 1.
And he's going to get it because he gets every trade, collection, hardcover, however they collect
Every
the
reprinting in
blah.
every format.
And so
It could be crap on a cracker and I'd buy it.
exactly what
That's
I was
right.
going. That's his quote. So that's half off, Shane. So $49.99.
And it's a hell of a collection. It's over 1,000 pages.
Uh-huh.
Now, I know Shane, is always hesitant because he finds the big omnibuses are unwieldy. But he may break that rule for this one.
Well, he has to. It's
Yeah.
a contract.
Wow, I might get this for myself. This is a very impressive collection. Wow. So check that out. So they're reissuing on page 139 Planetary in trade form again. I love this series by Warren Ellis, John Cassaday. I think it's one of Ellis's best works. So if you've never read Planetary, it's about adventures of these various people who have all these extraordinary powers and how they sort of interweave with moments in history and sort of pulp history. It's a fascinating series. Page 140, they're giving the Silver Age Supergirl the Volume 1 treatment, run by Otto Binder and Jerry Siegel, art by Al Plastino and Jim Mooney, cover by Michael Cho.
And if you'd like some Copper Age Supergirl, turn back to page 134. There's a collection of the daring new adventures of Supergirl, her pre-crisis 80s adventures, written by Paul Kupperberg. Some Infantino artwork in there.
Also on page 140, I've always loved this story, again, by one of my favorites, Matt Wagner, the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman Trinity trade paperback. This is a new edition of that. If you love, when those three get together, this is a story I highly recommend. Wagner both drawing and writing.
And Bizarro is in this story. And I know
That's right.
I do have the issues in my pile somewhere to be read. The first time we went to San Diego Comic-Con, I tracked down Matt Wagner and asked him to draw a Bizarro sketch for me, and he refused.
Really? How dare he?
I don't know how he dared, Brian.
Doesn't he know who you are?
I was not yet then who I am now. So not that it makes that much difference, but
Wow. Okay.
As a counterweight to that, I want to mention I actually invited Mr. Wagner to one of the shows I was running, and unlike too many artists, he was at least gracious enough to respond and say he couldn't make it, which I really appreciated.
that does say something for him.
Yeah. Page 146. If you're a big Jason Aaron fan, as I am, you want to go back to his glorious Vertigo roots, Scalped. His crime saga on a modern-day American Indian reservation. It's a tremendous comic. Flawless as far as I'm concerned in every way. And like so many great Vertigo series, it's finite. It's over, so you're going to get a full story. I'm sure they'll print it in 2 or 3 trades. Highest recommendation. I wanted to point out there are 2 beautiful black and white statues on page 152, both by Amanda Connor. Batman, classic costume, and then Harley Quinn with a spiked bat and a mallet.
Right.
IDW?
IDW it is.
IDW, UDW, he, she, it, DW.
Oh, you're conjugating IDW. You do it. Yes, that's my bit. That's my bit.
I wanted to mention again, I'm just in awe of how IDW is snatching up every possible licensed property they can. So on page 168, they're taking the board game Clue, they're making that into a comic.
Oh, what if Matt's going to get that?
I'll ask him, but I think the answer is probably going to be no.
He doesn't buy anything else. What's another book? Come on.
Well,
And then on the opposite page, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, that's okay, Chris. Go ahead.
On the opposite page, they're bringing back the Robert E. Howard property Cull on page 169. You recall that Marvel in the Bronze Age had a lot of King Cull stories. So I'm in awe of IDW here. Talk about a muscular approach to licensing.
And while we're talking about licensed properties, I might as well drop a mention on page 158 of a mini-series prequel that IDW is doing for the My Little Pony movie, due in theaters this fall. In fact, Season 7 is only a couple of days away from premiering on Discovery Family Channel, right?
If you say so.
I do say so, and so does our friend Big Jim, who directs the darn thing.
Okay, I knew there was a point to this somewhere.
Yeah, well, that and the fact that I'm actually kind of intrigued as to what a My Little Pony Friendship is Magic movie would look like. And, well, maybe this miniseries, penciled by our friend Andy Price, might give me a few clues.
Page 182, again, the latest artist edition, Mike Mignola Hellboy artist edition. Enough said. It's going to be gorgeous. Gonna get that one, Pansy?
No, I guess I gotta cut back on those. Unless I get them at a nice deal on a raffle sometime in the future.
Well, I actually ordered in my DCB service order for March. I did order the Kirby FF artist edition, But I think it's the last one I'm going to order because they're wonderful, but they're expensive.
Yes, I know.
And and plus to shelve them is a challenge as well.
Yes.
So I think I'm going to call it quits after this Kirby offering.
Okay.
But famous last words, of course.
Mhm.
What else for IDW, gentlemen?
Page 191 from the Yo Books imprint at IDW. We've got a second volume of the book that I nominated for Best Graphic Album of 2016 during our Best of 2016 awards. That was called Super Weird Heroes Outrageous But Real. This second volume is called Super Weird Heroes Preposterous But True. And it's a collection, a big, chunky hardcover collection of a bunch of really strange, outlandish, outre Golden Age characters. Everybody from Mr. Whiskers to the Zebra. And in alphabetical order with accompanying little text essays by Craig Yo himself. Yeah, that's the first volume was good, strange fun, and I'm definitely going to order the second volume.
All right.
Ready
for Image?
Yeah, on to Image.
Image has changed its design for its entries in the previews. That's pretty striking. On page 194, a new offering by Gail Simone and Cat Staggs, Crosswind #1. They sing it's Freaky Friday meets Goodfellas. So a hitman and as they put it, a smart but downtrodden Seattle housewife will change bodies. All right. Art looks very impressive.
And, of course, it's half off through DCBS.
So
Page 190. Go ahead, Bird.
It's a body switch story. It's a gender swap story. It's the creative team is really what's selling me on this. I can see this being something of a flop in other hands, but because it's Gail Simone and Cat Staggs, I will definitely be buying the first issue at half off.
Brother, I think I might do the same. Now, on page 196, it's Chaykin taking on American politics. The Divided States of Hysteria #1. Story, art, and cover by Howard Chaykin. I'll read the solicitation. An America sundered, an America enraged, an America terrified, an America shattered by greed and racism, violence and fear, nihilism and tragedy. And that's when everything really goes to hell. I love how provocative Chaykin is. I think it's safe to say if you're really conservative, you're probably not going to like this book. But I'm interested to see what his take is on America's current political landscape. So that's a new offering from Image there. 25th anniversary of both Spawn and Savage Dragon. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Where has the time gone?
You got to give Eric Larson credit. He's done 225 issues of this book. Pants, check out that tribute to the DC 100-page Super Spectaculars.
Yeah, I see it.
Page 200.
All right. Go ahead, Merv.
We've got a comics adaptation of the myth of Theseus called Kill the Minotaur #1. Don't know the creative team, but I know the story, and I'd like to see it in comics, so I think I'm going to buy that first issue.
On page 202, I don't know anything about the book, but just the title, Shirtless Bear Fighter.
Yeah, that sounds, and from the sample art here, Chris, looks like fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if it looks like $4 worth of fun, though. That's one I might wait on. I will keep that title in mind, because Shirtless Bear Fighter is a hard phrase to forget.
After being betrayed by the bears that raised him, the legendary Shirtless Bear Fighter wanders the forest he's sworn to protect, fist-fighting bears, eating flapjacks, and being the angriest man the world has ever known. That does sound a lot of fun.
Apparently, Shirtless Bear Fighter is the man's name.
Yep. Even better.
Page 205, we've got a new Bulletproof Coffin one-shot from writer David Hine and artist Shaky Kane. Yeah, it's Shaky Kane's he produced that one-shot Cap'n Dinosaur. I think I mentioned it. It was a couple of years ago.
Okay,
but it's kind of like a how to describe it exactly? It's like a psychedelic riff on police action stories, and it was also a paean to the classic Silver Age advertisements appearing in comic books. So yeah, I tend to like his work. It's a little offbeat, and Bulletproof Coffin is bringing his offbeat sensibility to what is basically a hard-boiled crime. There have been a few Bulletproof Coffin projects coming out of Image before, and now here's another one. And Danny would probably want us to mention on page 204 the Bitch Planet triple feature. As that is a series that Danielle likes, and we will be talking about it one day as a
Yes.
as a book of the month.
We need to bring back the Book of the Month format. It's been dormant for too long now. I wanted to point out, jumping ahead a bit, on page 220, the last issue of Hadrian's Wall, brought to you by Kyle Higgins, who was the writer of the wonderful Cal series that Jamie D praised some years back about a superheroes union in the early 1960s Chicago. This is a noir science fiction in space. I'm reading it. It's tremendous. This is the final issue, so either hunt down the back issues or wait for the trade. It's superb. Higgins is a very talented creator, and I think he deserves more attention. Page 223. I'll mention Killer Be Killed every month because it's one of the best damn comics being produced today. Again, the master team of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. I mentioned last month how the latest issue of Killer Be Killed, I think it was some of the finest artwork of Sean Phillips' career that I've seen thus far. I nominated him for Artist of 2016. He keeps this up, he may repeat for me. Just two masters at the top of their form. Great take on the sort of the vigilante concept, urban vigilante. I mentioned Old Guard on page 227. This is Greg Rucka and Leandro Fernandez. I read the first two issues. Fantastic. Could be in the running already for Best New Series of the Year. It's about a group of a special ops team of immortal warriors who some have been alive since the time of Alexander the Great. Some are more, some are young chickens because maybe they were alive during the Crusades. And it's just how the intrigue they get involved in it as their identities are actually discovered and what they have to do. And a new member who joins them and how their immortality isn't actually indefinite. So it's Greg Rucka. That's all I really need to know there. All righty.
On to Marvel Comics?
Marvel it is.
All right. Well, here's a bit of the comic book I promised you. As we discussed maybe like a couple of months ago, Marvel changed their policy on digital comics. They were no longer putting redeem codes in their books for that issue to get a digital copy. Well, they've heard the people talk, and now they've made an about face. This is from their press release, beginning the week of May 3rd, along with the release of Secret Empire #1, all Marvel digital redeem codes will unlock a free digital copy, along with a bonus comic, at no extra cost. So, David Gabriel, the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing, says, "We heard the message loud and clear on digital same-issue codes. We heard how folks across the world were using them, relying on them, loving them. We're always looking to do what's best for fans and the comics industry, so we're pleased to make this program even better. Now, print comic readers will receive a code for the issue they purchased and also an additional bonus comic giving customers even more value for their purchase." So, because there was some heated discussion on that, well, on our show, but also all over the interwebs about this, and it's good that actually Marvel was listening, because it seemed to me to be a mistake to do what they did. And, well, kudos to them for taking the reins and relatively quickly getting it back to the way it was.
And I echo those sentiments because I talked to a lot of people, too, who were very unhappy about this. And plus, the change was so cynical. All it was, these are the things we want to promote. So they just basically were throwing in these promos that nobody wanted to read, essentially, to try to drive people towards certain things. And I thought it was a terrible decision. I'm glad they've rectified it.
So good for that. Now, Chris, do you want to talk about anything else Marvel before we get to the actual previews at all?
Sure. I just wanted to give my, relatively worthless 2 cents on there was a recent article. I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. I think it was Bleeding Cool, where one of the Marvel officials was being interviewed about a decline in sales. And he was ascribing a lot of that to the fact that he felt because Marvel was trying a lot of diversity in terms of characters, gender, so forth, he felt that it affected the sales numbers and that they were in a bit of I don't remember the term he used, forgive me, but a rut or a bit of a decline. He felt that was the reason. I thought it was the biggest bunch of hooey I've read. Speaking again as a retailer, what's his name? David Gabriel?
David Gabriel.
Dave, you know why the books aren't selling well? Because they're too much frickin' money. That's why. And because, look at Amazing Spider-Man recent issues. What are the worldwide order numbers? 60,000 copies in a nation of 300+ million people. Okay? Very few people are not reading comics because you got too diverse. Just not very few people are just reading comics in general. All right? So things like what you pull with digital didn't help. I have to compliment Marvel on backtracking that because that was a very foolish decision. We want, if you want people to read these books, let's get with the program and acknowledge the digital realities. I mean, I'm still old-fashioned. I read the paper books, but I understand people have their phones, they have their tablets. Give them the ability to read the stuff online. Hopefully, someday they can figure out how to make them cheaper. But to me, it's not, I mean, maybe the diversity was a little bit of a factor, but to me, it's about price point. It's about demographics. It's about the state of entertainment in the country, what people are watching and doing with their free time. And something that takes you 10 minutes, 15 minutes to read, that's $4 with ads. It's just not keeping up with the 21st century. So I was actually laughing out loud when I read what he wrote because I thought it was absurd. And there's a reason why I dump new comics from my shop, why I'm with great relief leaving my relationship with Diamond. I'll talk more freely about that once that relationship is over. The model is just it's antiquated, and I think it's not working for a lot of reasons. But I think because things are, quote, too diverse, which I think is wonderful. To me, that's not a major reason why books are not selling or that there's a slump. You took away a digital offer that people like, and you're charging $4 for a comic book. Come on, I don't think it takes rocket science to figure out why things are the way they are. Mm-hmm. That's just me.
All right, so on to the actual books they are soliciting this month.
Secret Empire, Secret Empire, Secret Empire, Secret Empire, Secret Empire, still turning pages, Secret Empire. Woo, Secret Empire. Okay, all right. Hopefully, I'm being flippant here, but I love what Nick Spencer's been doing in Cap with the Steve Rogers, the sentient cosmic cube, rewriting his entire history and how he's been a Hydra sleeper agent all along. I know some people got a twist about that. Read the story. In my view, it's one of the most exciting things Marvel's doing right now. So I'm interested to see how they're going to approach this. I'm a little concerned about the massive crossover approach they're taking with this. I normally get turned off by those, but I'm at least going to read the main arc and the stuff Spencer himself is doing, like Captain America, Sam Wilson, Captain America, Steve Rogers. So I'm excited for this because he's been building this now for quite some time. So let's see where it goes. And we have our second off the rack on page 20, Defenders #1. Good creative team, Brian Michael Bendis and David Marquez.
Yeah, I find it interesting that, Defenders #1 now, this is going to be based on the TV series lineup for the Defenders.
Sure looks that way.
If you're a purist, I can see you being a little ticked about, because the Defenders have quite a history in comics, and obviously that's being completely ignored here. Although Luke Cage was a member of the Defenders, briefly. Correct, Murd, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. As in his Power Man motif. Not motif, his Power Man persona. So, again, it's the way of the world. It's very much tied into the show, and I'm looking forward to reading this. This is our second off-the-rack pick. Page 18, Chip Zdarsky of Sex Criminals is writing a new version of Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, with art by Adam Kubert. It looks like they're taking Peter back to his so-called Parker Luck persona. If you're reading the Slott Amazing Spider-Man, which I'm way behind on, but I'm enjoying it, he's running a big corporation. He's like a kinder, gentler Tony Stark in a sense. This looks like it's going more towards the traditional, they're saying it here, back to basics for big heroics and the Big Apple. So I love Zdarsky's sense of humor and wit and Sex Criminals. He's the artist of that, so I'll probably try this.
I was talking to Adam before we started recording, back on page, does it have a page number here? 86? A new Darth Vader book.
Yes.
Because I know how you love the last one, Chris.
In fact, I ordered amazing series by Kieran Gillen and
Salvador Larroca.
Salvador Larroca was some of the greatest artwork of his career. I ordered from DCB Service the hardcover collecting that entire series. I'm looking forward to reading that again. This is by Charles Soule. Giuseppe Camuncoli is the art, covered by Jim Chung. Based on the solicitation, it sounds like this is going to take place right after he becomes Darth Vader. So it says, join Vader as he learns a new way, the way of Darth Sidious and his newly formed empire. The way of the dark side.
Vader Year 1.
It sounds like it, so count me in for that. And jumping back a page, how fun does Star Wars Droids Unplugged look?
Quite a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Chris Iliopoulos all the time on this book. My goodness.
Yep, variant covered by Mike Allred, which
Oh.
I'd like to see. So, yep, I do have quite a few droid solo comics from Dark Horse back in the day, so I'll probably buy this one too.
All right, come on. Someone's got to say it. These are the droids you're looking for.
Okay, just if you'd given me another half a second, I would have got.
You're too slow, sir.
I want to point out back on page 58, you may have mentioned this in the past, Pants. Vision the Director's Cut, number 1
Yes.
of 6. So they're reprinting the already classic Vision series, which swept many of our awards in 2016, as it should have. And this is going to be, it looks like it's annotated, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
So they got extras, his original series pitch, script excerpts, character design, sketches, cover sketches. If you haven't read The Vision yet, get the trades or get this because, again, one of the most innovative series Marvel has done in a long time.
I want to jump to the trades, and I don't usually go this way, but again, there's a thing for Shane here on page 103, Muppet Babies Omnibus hardcover.
Digging back into the old Star Comics material.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think there is supposed to be on Disney Junior sometime in the not-too-distant future a new CGI Muppet Babies show.
Wow. Okay.
So this release would be timely to coordinate with that.
Sure.
I want to point out on page 96, Marvel's teaming up with, I think it's the Archie Company, and they're doing a new digest line, and the first one is going to feature stories from throughout the history of the Amazing Spider-Man title, from Lee Ditko forward, which I think is a fantastic concept. I mean, I always enjoy when they celebrate the history and make people aware of that. So they're saying here in the blurb, one printing only. So, all right, on page 98, God, epic. Thor by Walter Simonson Omnibus, new printing. If you want to just read one of the great takes on this character, besides of course the legendary Lee Kirby period, boy, pick this up. I think Brian Deemer's a full-throated fan of this era of Thor. It collects Simonson's entire run of the character plus Baldo the Brave 1 through 4. It's essential reading. Can't recommend it enough. If you like the Hulk World War Hulk story, that the omnibus is coming out on page 99. Boy, they're doing the omnibus is big here. So they got Deadpool World's Greatest Volume 2 on page 100, and then on page 101. By the way, did we talk about the Deadpool trailer in the front of Logan?
I don't know if we did or not. No.
Did you see it, Pants?
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
I thought it was an inspired trailer.
Yes.
The costume change in the phone booth was a high point of that. Again, if you're a Thor fan on page 101, the Heroes Return series I really enjoyed. You had Dan Jurgens writing that throughout. You had John Romita Jr. doing some of the artwork. Then you had other heavy hitters, the legendary John Buscema, Mike McCone, Lee Weeks, Eric Larson, Dick Kubert, Michael Ryan, Stuart Immonen. I mean, this is Jerry Ordway, Sean Chen. It's a great series. This reprints 1 through 35 plus extras. I recommend that. Comes to fruition. Page 102. The final volume of Master of Kung Fu, the Omnibus, Volume 4. This collects the great work by Gene Day, the late, great Gene Day who died very young in his 30s. I've praised this series. We did Martin and I did a whole spotlight on this. And I effusively praise Day's work whenever I can. I'm looking forward to ordering this. This was like one of my big purchases for this month from DCB Service. One of the all-time great finite Marvel series. I'm so glad Marvel got the license back to at least publish these in the format that they deserve.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here and mention on page 108 and 109, the Monster ABCs hardcover. Okay, so it's a Marvel Universe bestiary here, focusing on all those great Atlas-era giant monster stories for which Marvel is somewhat infamous at that time. So there's I wish this were like a collection of reprinted stories for monsters representing all 26 letters of the alphabet. They do have 26 monsters in here, from Awesome Android to Zatora, says the solicitation copy. But most of it is just what they call comic cover tributes, drawn by some pretty talented artists. But for my money, I'd really rather have reprinted stories. There are a few of those in here. Material from a few issues of Tales to Astonish, Tales of Suspense, Journey into Mystery. But I'd really rather have a story for each letter of the alphabet as opposed to a few stories and a bunch of pinups.
So, Murder, they basically give me like a quick little sort of Ohatmu entry for each of these monsters, it looks like.
Yeah, it seems there's one little explanatory text page and then one cover tribute, and then move on to the next monster for most of the letters of the alphabet. There'll be a few like superstars like Groot, Fin Fang Foom, Zemnu the Titan, and so forth that are going to have like a reprinted story included in here. But again, if it were 26 different classic reprints, then I would definitely be laying down my money for this collection. But as it is, I think I'll skip it.
And we should mention, for those who appreciate the history, in the late 50s when Marvel was in its Atlas era, this was their mainstay. The Marvel house titles like Tales of Suspense, Tales to Astonish, Journey to Mystery featured a lot of these monster characters, many of which involved Jack Kirby, who designed a lot of them. I mean, we did our FF Spotlight in the Silver Age a couple of years back with Jamie D. I tried to establish sort of the transition from the monster titles to FF and how the monster titles definitely had an influence on, for example, the design of the Thing. And I remember Murden had a ball naming characters like Spragg the Living Hill, and so forth. So it's an important part of Marvel's history. And speaking of Marvel's history, on page 111, color your own Marvel Masters. Now, listen to this roll call of glory. Kirby, Ditko, Romita Sr., Buscema. Oh. Wow. That looks fun. On page 116, the first volume of the Thanos series by Jeff Lemire and Mike Diodato. I'm really enjoying this series. So if you want to check that out, the first trade will be out in June.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Chris.
And Merid, for you, I think, don't you enjoy the Great Lakes Avengers?
I do. I do enjoy those characters.
Page 123, same old trade paperback. So looks like it's reprinting Great Lakes Avengers 1 through 7.
Which I think is the entire run of the series, kind of think of it. I think there's not an issue solicited in this preview, so I think it is pretty much done. But it's great artwork by this Will Robson person. I came very close to nominating him for like best artist or something this past year for the Best of 2016 awards. I really like the art. The writing, tried a little too hard to be funny for my taste. So I sort of give it a half-half recommend, like a three frickin' swear recommendation, I guess.
It's still respectable. On page 132, I always praise Marvel's Epic Collection line. They take great runs from their iconic series and they package them in these color editions. They're expensive, $40, but you're getting a lot of comics. So, for example, Captain America Epic Collection Volume 3, Bucky Reborn. Captain America 120 through 138. That's great stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Stan Lee writing, Gene Colan. Hearts aflutter when I hear that name. With John Romita Sr., Jack Kirby covers. You got a classic Amazing Spider-Man appearance in here. Baron Strucker, Doom, MODOK. The Falcon in his green costume. Great stuff. And then next to that, Fantastic Four Epic Collection Volume 2. Fantastic Four 19 through 32. Annuals 1 and 2. It's Lee and Kirby, enough said. I mean, it's where it all starts, right there. So, great history. And the Web Spinners title on page 135. This is some great Spider-Man supplemental stories that were done. When did this come out? Late 90s, early 2000s? Looks like it's late 90s. J.M. DeMatteis wrote some of them. These are Paul Jenkins. They go into different aspects of Spider-Man's history, including, I remember one, I think it was by Jenkins, dealing with the ramifications of Gwen Stacy's death. If you're a Spider-Man fan, I recommend this collection. Some great stories in there. I'm good with Marvel unless you guys have other things to say.
Well, I think we're ready for the rest of the book.
All right. What else? What, we want to shout about anything right off the bat?
Well, I want to shout out something because I have a follow-up question for you then, Chris. I'm going to go all the way to the back to page 630.
Ooh, pants!
Back in the game.
Mining deep here. You put on your miner's helmet.
Yeah. From Cryptozoic Entertainment, DC Comics deck-building game, The Multiverse Expansion.
Oh, now, you're a big fan of the deck building.
Oh, I love a DC deck-building game. Now, this is essentially a box to store all of the currently available cards of all the other sets they have, but this also comes with the Convergence crossover pack. So I'm going to be getting that. But now, Chris, what I wanted to ask you, and probably even should ask your manager, Billy, more than you, but I'll ask you to have you on the line here. I just saw there's also a press release not too long ago from Cryptozoic where they'll be releasing the first DC deck-building game organized play kit. It includes instructions for retail stores to run tournaments as well as prizes for participants. Is this something I can throw your way and maybe you can get for your store so I can come and play in a tournament for these things?
If our distributor will be carrying it, which they probably will, because we get our games from a different distributor.
This comes through PSI Distribution.
I'd say it's something we'll probably get into. Now, granted, we're going through a big transition in my business right now, so I can't promise that right now, but DC Deck Builder has always been popular in the shop, so if we can get our hands on it, I'd say it's very likely, yes.
Cool. Because this includes, you can win promo cards, the promo card of Vixen. There's a wonderful mat here with Alex Ross art. So, because I can't play with anybody, but I try to get Shane, and he's too busy. And so, if you can have one at your store, I'll be there all the time and stay over at Danny's and play at Danny's house. And when we're done,
and let me tell you something, we'll all be better for it, Pandaroos. Thank you. I wanted to mention an Aftershock, page 260.
Excellent.
Looks like Garth Ennis is taking on James Bond here. Drawn by Russ Braun, who's worked with Ennis before. I'll read the solicitation. Jimmy Regent, great name. Britain's #1 super spy has got it all. Intrigue, adventure, a license to shoot whoever he likes, and beautiful women falling at his feet. He also has a new partner who isn't quite as impressed by Jimmy as all the women appear to be. Now there's a price to pay for Jimmy's multiple romantic conquests, the results of which are about to come calling in the worst possible way. I'm in. It's Ennis. It's Ennis clearly deconstructing James Bond. Think about the ways he's deconstructed some of the Marvel characters. I'm sure this is going to be immensely entertaining. And I'm a huge Bond fan, so very psyched for this.
If you like,
and I'm also psyched that apparently Daniel Craig will return to do one more James Bond film. Go ahead, Bert. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, not at all. I was just going to throw in, if you like Preacher and if you like Archer, this is something you will probably also enjoy. And I like both, so I'll be right there with you buying this, the first issue of this, Chris.
No, Archer's tremendous.
I'm going to jump ahead to page 270. Good Lord. I mean, American Mythology, they've got Underdog coming out, and now Rocky and Bullwinkle. Moose and Squirrel are back. Yes. Sign me up. I mean, they're going to have Mr. Peabody and Sherman, Dudley Do-Right, Boris and Natasha. I mean, come on. Sign me up for this book. I mean, just... Did I mention I love this book?
Well, you...
I'm looking
I think
for
you
good...
just love the idea of this book.
Well, I love the idea. Yeah, you're right. It's going to be all the execution, but we'll see how it works out. But I'm going to give it a shot for the first issue. And Underdog should be coming out pretty soon before Free Comic Book Day and #1 issue.
Sometime before the end of the month.
Yes. So American Mythology, give that a shot, page 270.
I want to reiterate on page 278, again from Archie. Marvel Comics Digest #1, The Amazing Spider-Man. 200 pages. starting with Leon Ditko, Len Wein, Ross Andrew, throughout Spider-Man's history from the Amazing Spider-Man title, $7, 224 pages, digest size. I'm definitely getting this. That's a fantastic idea.
Any thoughts on why this might be coming out through Archie instead of through Marvel, Chris?
Merger guess as good as mine. I mean, we know we have the Spider-Man movie coming out this summer. Remember they're trying to cross-promote through, like, you see a lot of Archie books in non-comic shops, supermarkets, things of that nature.
Yeah, they've got the digest version down pat of that. Maybe that's why they went to them. So
it says first issue, one printing only. So June 7th, I'm definitely going to pick that up. All right, see what else we got here.
On page 288, coming out through something called Big Wow Art, a new OGN featuring Dan Brereton's Nocturnals. It's called The Sinister Path. I didn't even need to read anything else. I'm already preparing my wallet for the extra blow it's going to take. I love the Nocturnals. I have loved them since they debuted through Malibu's Bravura line back in the 90s. It's a blend of crime noir, Lovecraftian horror, superhero costumed action, and just the brightly colored fun of Halloween night, all mixed into one under the skillful, painterly hand of Dan Brereton. Definitely.
And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, every creator should want to have Murd do their solicitations on the air.
Thank you very kindly for the plug, Chris.
You bet, brother.
I'll send my resume around.
Hell yeah. Page 92, if you're a SpongeBob fan, they always do, as the summer approaches, their annual Swimtacular. And I always get this from my son, Jun. The SpongeBob comics, I'll leaf through them because Jun reads them. They're really fun. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something in there, there's something there for both an adult and a kid level.
Without question. I personally have not missed well, I shouldn't say that. I'm missing 2 issues of SpongeBob comics, but I'm pretty close to a complete collection, Chris. So I will corroborate what you say about them being readable to adults.
That's all I need to hear. Page 303, this is very exciting. Planet of the Apes, Archive, Volume 1. Now, why am I putting on my bombastic tone? Because I'm excited because they're reprinting the 1970s Marvel Comics black and white magazine. And what's important here is most of these stories are written by Doug Monk, illustrated, now, again, this should be setting one's hearts aflutter, Mike Ploog, Tom Sutton, Herb Trimpe. If you're an Apes fan, and you have not read these stories, they are so wacky. Okay, there's an issue where there's chimpanzees wearing Davy Crockett outfits. That's all I need to say. On a whitewater raft. Just read it.
Perhaps that's why it's collected for the first time. Perhaps. I'm just saying.
If you're an Apes fan, these stories are really fun. Monk goes in all kinds of wild directions. He's riffing off, the plot devices of the films. Beautiful artwork. I may need to buy this, even though it'll be probably half off at DCB Service, $50 SRP. Ah, tremendous. That's a high recommendation if you're an Apes fan.
They're putting them in full color, though, Chris. Did you notice? Instead of the original black and white.
I missed that. Oh, interesting. Huh. I don't know how I feel about that, Murd.
Yeah, neither do I.
Wait, where does it say full color? I'm missing that completely.
Right there, page 303, right underneath the cover by Malcolm McNeil, $49.99.
Oh, yeah, that. Interesting. I don't know about that. We'll have to see. Because I love the black and white magazines from the 70s. What else, gentlemen?
Well, let's jump ahead to Dynamite to page 332.
Here I come to save the day. That means that Mighty Mouse is on the way. Yes, sir, when there is a wrong to right, Mighty Mouse will join the fight. On the sea or on the land, he gets the situation well in hand.
Perhaps one of the most iconic TV cartoon theme songs of all time. But Mighty Mouse coming back to comics. We talked about this is going to be our off-the-rack selection for the other independent of the book.
Indeed.
Written by Sholly Fish, Murray. We talked about this. Yes, with his work on the Scooby-Doo books and other
underrated talent.
Yes, just very much. And this is an interesting take on it here. Well, you read this. Listen, you're better read. So
Well,
listen.
I'll paraphrase it. Apparently, Mighty Mouse is trapped in the quote-unquote real human world. He comes from a cartoon world of funny animals, anthropomorphic animals, and now he's in this world where he's suddenly out of scale with all the other human beings. I think he's supposed to be like just the size of a normal mouse here in this world. And so now he has to cope with human beings and laws of physics not working the way they do in his cartoon frame of reference. I got to say, I have not in the past been that big a fan of the idea of taking the plot device of taking cartoon characters out of their native context and putting them into this fish out of water situation in the real world.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Well, no, that's a different story. That's
Okay.
cartoon characters and human beings coexisting.
Okay, all right.
I'm talking about
I wanna
more
see
like-
him, okay.
Like well, they did it on the big screen with Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they did it with the Smurfs a couple of. I'm more
Which
interested
is
in
why I
seeing.
haven't seen those movies.
Yeah, the current Smurfs: The Lost Village actually looks better because the Smurfs are not bumbling around, hanging out with Neil Patrick Harris. They're in their native medieval world.
Okay.
But Charlie Fish is an intelligent person and a gifted creator, and I think he's going to write the heck out of this concept.
And this artwork from Igor Lima is wonderful. Look at that on page 333. Mm-hmm. And there's Alex Ross cover. There's a Neil Adams cover. I'm definitely getting this, and this is going to be able to mention our off the rack selection. Dynamite. Sorry, I had to do it. I'm obligated to.
Oh wow! And
Page go ahead, Mert.
were you about to talk about what's on page 334, Chris?
Actually, 336, but please precede me because the 334 should be mentioned as well.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. It's issue number 1 of a 5-issue Kiss Meets Vampirella miniseries set back in the summer of 1974 in L.A. I mean, I'd buy this for the setting, if nothing else. But yeah, Kiss and Vampirella. And we know that Gene Simmons was a big fan of Warren Publications. I mean, there's a quote from him on page 335 where he talks about it. So, I'm pretty sure Gene Simmons himself is going to end up owning all the original art from this project because I think that's a stipulation he has with every comic book company that produces a Kiss comic. He always gets all the art.
Really?
Well, that's what I know the case as well. I'm not sure how current that agreement is, but that's what he's done in the past. Absolutely,
Well, he's a big comic fan.
he sure is. Yeah.
Page 336, if you want to take a time warp back to the 90s, if you're a fan, Gwar, the Metal Shock Rock Legends. And I must say, I saw Gwar in concert in my early 20s, and they did not disappoint when it came to over-the-top theatrics. So they're having a book out called Orgasmageddon. I don't think there's much more to be said. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up Gwar online and you'll understand. I wanted to jump ahead, if I may, to Gemstone
Yes.
on page 361. This is always a celebratory moment of the year for me. I get to order the new Overstreet Price Guide.
Yep.
And let's give props to Rom Space Knight for landing one of the 2 coveted covers for this the 47th edition. And you also have a Batman cover by Steranko.
Yeah, I'm with that cover instead.
And Rom by the Lockheed artist Gabriel Rodriguez. So, if you're a back issue collector, consumer, this is the book that should be under your arm when you're, cruising the bins and so forth. It's an essential reference I've been using my entire career as a retailer, and certainly before that, just as a casual collector and reader. It's got great articles. Pants has praised many of these articles in the past.
Yep.
It's market reports. They give you a year breakdown of different retailers and experts giving you their take on the market, broken down often by different eras, gold, silver, bronze, etc.
There's the Hall of Fame. It's a great reference tool. I was looking up like appearances and what have you there, and it's we have several of the older archives. Older editions in our library that I've given over the years that I don't need any longer.
It's a essential reading. Now, I mean, if you're someone who likes to collect, so-called hot books, you may want to refer to the internet sometimes, see how the book like that is doing on eBay before you make a purchase. But for 99% of comics, the Overstreet is more than sufficient for as a reference tool. Although I should mention that we see this in my own store. most books are not really worth what the Overstreet says. I think
yeah.
even Overstreet might even mention this at this point.
They do,
most
they
end
do.
up in bargain bins where they should be. So that's not a comment on quality, just on the realities of the market.
Certainly.
So I'm excited about that.
Yep.
I would like to bounce back for just a quick moment here to page 338. This is back under Dynamite again. One more thing that I
Please.
wanted to bring to your attention, Chris, specifically, because it's a new Magnus Robot Fighter comic, which is written by Kyle Higgins of Cowl.
In immediately.
Yeah, it's a new take on the Magnus character. It's a woman this time. And apparently robots in the far future world Magnus inhabits have not become the overlords of humanity. Instead, they live in, a quote, an uneasy symbiosis. But some of them are malcontented and are planning revolution, insurrection, and so they bring in a human psychologist who specializes in the robot mind to ferret out this robot revolutionaries. So, sounds like an interesting idea, and we already know it's a quality writer, so I thought everybody should know.
Murd, thank you. I missed that. I appreciate it. I wanted to jump ahead on page 388 to a publisher called Lion Forge. This book says very interesting. Jazz Maynard. Jazz Maynard is a trumpeter. He also hides a variety of skills best kept secret. It's these skills he uses when he discovers his long-lost sister is in the grip of New York sex traffickers. On a mission to rescue her and return to her home, a labyrinth of trouble opens up beneath his feet, dropping into a web of intrigue and danger that most men would not survive. Written by, I'm going to butcher this, I apologize, Raoul. I'm sure I killed that, I'm sorry. Art and cover by Roger. Art looks great. Story sounds like my kind of meat.
Yeah, it looks like Lion Forge has got a big summer push going on here to establish
Indeed.
a line of superhero and other adventure comics. Back on 384, the one that interests me the most is a new series called Axel, which is written by Joe Casey, art by Damian Scott. And so it's Joe Casey giving us his take on the concept of super speed and a super speed powered hero. And Casey is he's a pretty good writer of high concept science fiction. I've referred to him a few times as like practically the equal of Grant Morrison in that regard. He's another underappreciated talent. So I will definitely be at least trying the first issue of Axel for his sake.
And back on page 14 and 15, there's an interview with Joe Casey.
Oh, I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Page 403, Tales from the Crypt. Horror side. Why I'm mentioning this because the writer is the great Larry Hama. An all-new 3-issue series, the legendary EC comic that's exercising its demon-given right to commit horror in bold print. Special guest writer editor Larry Hama invites you to witness 3 terror tales that you may never forget no matter how hard you try. Art by Mike Mayhew and various. Cover art by the great Michael Golden. That is from what publisher is doing this?
Looks like it's Paper Cuts.
Paper Cuts, yep.
Under the imprint says Super Genius.
So, Hama rarely steers a reader wrong. What do we know about, on page 422, Normandy Gold from Titan Comics, a new crime series. 2 writers, Allison Galen and Megan Abbott. Anything about this?
I don't know anything other than what I've read right here.
All right.
Nor do I.
It just sounds interesting. I like the art. When a younger sister becomes the center of a brutal murder case, tough as nails Sheriff Normandy Gold is forced to dive headfirst, listen to this, into the seedy world of 1970s prostitution.
Okay. Which half of that is supposed to interest me more?
1970s.
Of course.
So that could be interesting. It says perfect for fans of cult 70s cinema. And they put in parentheses, Taxi Driver and Mean Streets. Noir fiction and strong female leads. All right. That sounds promising.
There are a couple of sort of oddball things I've noticed along the way I wanted to mention along as we go. Page 370, most of that page is given over to a concept called Apama, the Undiscovered Animal, from Hero Tomorrow Comics. Its second original trade is now being published. I have the first volume. It's about an ice cream man in Cleveland who gains a spirit totem that gives him the powers of an animal so mysterious and so powerful no one's even heard of it. It's kind of like he's become the push me pull you man. That's a Dr. Dolittle reference, kids. So it's kind of odd and I know a little bit on the surreal side. It's got kind of Bob Burden-esque overtones to it. It's weird, but it's weird superheroics with an eye towards the classics of early Marvel. So the Apama in the second volume faces bad guys such as the Tap Dance Killer, the Ruster, and Regina, the psychedelic human bad trip. Does that speak to you the way it speaks to me, Chris?
Hell yeah.
So I'm definitely going to order that. Under Oni Press on pages 394 and 395, they've got what they call Square One, which is their bargain-priced $1 first issue reprint deal. Following in the footsteps of IDW's 100-penny press and several other publishers, like Image Firsts. Other publishers have given you reprints of key number one issues at the low price of $1. Now Oni's doing the same. The series they're offering in this format are Another Castle, Courtney Crumrin, The Mighty Zodiac, and Space Battle Lunchtime. And on the opposite page, they're giving you volume number one trades for a mere $10, which is probably going to be closer to $5 or $6 at dcbservice.com. And there you've got your choice of Cullen Bunn's The Sixth Gun, which is like a supernatural Western series, and Ted Naifeh's Courtney Crumrin. It's about a young woman who's dabbling in supernatural investigation. And I think I'm going to try both of those trades at that low price.
Yes, both of those trades are half off at $5.
$5.
And the dollar issues are 35% off at 65 cents.
Choice. And getting even more obscure, on page 407, coming out through Scout Comics, which is a small publisher that produced that Hench Girl series that I collected a while ago, a collection of that came out through Dark Horse a few months ago. A new series written and drawn by Raul Trevino called Tinkers of the Wasteland. It's a post-apocalyptic story. It appears to be something like Mad Max meets Solar Babies, except with chickens. It seems very strange and fun, and I think I'm going to give the first issue a try. Bless you, Chris.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to mention... Are you done there, Mert?
I am, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Page 442... I mean, this is one of the most exciting pages in the whole previews. Why? Because it's totally devoted to Tomorrow's Publishing. And I will not miss any chance to praise this company ad nauseum. Again, if you love the history of comics, if you're just learning about, the biography of various key creators, different creative movements in comics, the impact of comics on society, I mean, you name it, it's in these magazines. Back issue 98, DC in the 80s, you got Dick Grace's Nightwing in his original Nightwing costume on the cover. The Jack Kirby Collector, which is a magnificent magazine going back to the 1990s, which covers as many aspects of the King's life and career as it possibly can. They're doing a new book here. Reed Crandall, illustrator of the comics hardcover, a retrospective on his career. They're offering the Hawkman Companion. This company, American Comic Book Chronicles, the Chronicles series is amazing. These hardcover books, they take you through different decades of the American comic book. The detail, the research is breathtaking. And the images that they bring into these books, how they tie it into the history and the politics, the society of the time. American Comic Book Chronicles as a place of honor on my bookshelf.
Yeah, we have several of those in our CGS library here as well.
Yep. So, Tomorrow's. Now, gentlemen, I unfortunately have to depart. I wanted to mention a couple of things, though, before I leave, if I may.
You may not.
Look. Pantaloons, I'd like nothing better than to be there in that studio, by your side, maybe occasionally, kind of nuzzling your shoulder, but, family duties call. I wanted to mention, though, because it's always a great month when Previews brings in all the new calendars. And because there's some really fun ones on page 487 and 488. I always get the Marvel and DC vintage ones every year. They have tremendous cover images in them, usually with history, a text blurb at the bottom giving you context. And I always buy one of each company, and I often sometimes I'll frame some of the images. You've got a Marvel retro calendar, and then page 488 you've got a vintage Batman and a vintage Superman. Fantastic. And the last thing I wanted to mention, because I always like to jump back into the back of the book and all the fun, ludicrous tchotchke that no one really needs to own, but, sometimes you can't help yourself. First of all, on page 540, the fact that Twin Peaks is returning to television next month on Showtime, which is my favorite television program, if I had to pick one of all time, it just has me in a tizzy. But now that they have an Agent Cooper bobblehead. Now, in my classroom at school, I'm renowned for my collection of bobbleheads on my desk. This will be an addition. None of the kids will know who the hell he is. Doesn't matter. All that matters is that I will know. So,
as a quick aside, I broke down and just recently signed up for cable again because I couldn't find a way to get Doctor Who otherwise, which is coming up on this coming Saturday. But as part of the package that I got the Showtime, so I can see the Twin Peaks when it comes out.
All right.
Fantastic.
So I won't
Look
be
forward
in
to
the house
discussing that
anytime
with you.
soon with my new cable.
Indeed. The other thing I wanted to mention, just a fun, silly tchotchke thing. I could see Shane being amused by this. Sorry, let me find it. I just lost the page, and I apologize for that. Here we go. On page 625, for the Star Trek fan, it doesn't have everything. The Uniforms Pint Glass 2-piece set. So one glass covers the uniforms of the 23rd century, the other of the 24th. So if you're a Trek fan, that looks like funky fun right there. Dearest brothers, I must now depart. I leave the remainder of the episode in your more than capable hands.
Okay.
And I look forward to speaking to both of you very soon. We can discuss seeing Guardians together the night before Free Comic Book Day, of course.
Oh, yes.
And I will take care of tickets on that, so don't worry. That'll all be prepared for you.
How about the popcorn?
You'll have to get that on your own there, Pantaloons. But, you're a big boy. I don't need to hold your hand when we go to the concession stand.
Okay.
So, all right, brothers, I will talk to you both very soon.
All right, sir.
Thank you for marching with
Good night,
us this
brothers.
far, Chris. Hope you feel better.
Thanks, brother. Always an honor. Take care, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Via con Rios.
De nada.
All right. So where do we leave off here, or where do you want to jump back into?
Well, I kind of think I had already addressed everything in the comics section of the catalog that I had intended to.
Okay. For me, there is one of the books I wanted to mention on page 482 from Doctor Who, of course. They've been having the complete history of Doctor Who in several volumes where they go back and forth between doctors and so forth. And I could have gotten all of them, but they're $18.99 SRP, and the space because they're up to volume 48 here right now. But I'm going to try volume 47 because it's on the First Doctor, and it covers 4 serials that of the 21 episodes, only 4 of them exist. They're going to cover the Galaxy 4, Mission to the Unknown, the Mythmakers, and of course the Daleks' Master Plan, the 12-episode epic, where they go through photographs in the archives, some in full color, story summations, character and actor profiles, pre and post production notes, and broadcast reactions. So this I'm going to try out, and if I like it, I might try other volumes. But because so little exists from the actual episodes, I want to delve much into as I can with the other material for that. All right. Anything else, Adam, from the rest of the book here that draws your eye?
Well, not really. But while we're here in the book section, I might as well take this opportunity to talk about something that came in through the CGS mailbag.
Certainly.
Something that is not in the book section of this previews catalog, but that deserves to be.
But I think it might have been at some point.
If it was, we overlooked it.
I don't know how we did. But.
And I apologize for that, but we'll give it its due at this point. It's a book about He-Man, recently published. It's called How He-Man Mastered the Universe, Toy to Television to the Big Screen, written by CGS listener Brian C. Baer. And Brian went out of his way to get not one but 2 copies of this book into our hands, autographed, no less. You have the power, Brian Baer. Right there it is. And this is a work. It's a monographic work of history on the He-Man franchise, from the conceptual stage through toys and action figures to the Filmation cartoon, and a lot of space. A lot of pages devoted to the 1987 Canon Films motion picture Masters of the Universe, starring Dolph Lundgren. Probably more attention in a work of analytical prose than that movie has ever received. And you can tell that this is a labor of love for Brian. He's been a lifelong fan of the He-Man franchise. It's as much a part of his childhood as it was of mine, and it shows through in his glowing descriptions and the detailed plot summaries he gives to the feature film, among other things. And so it's not in this month's previews, but it is available through McFarland and Company publishers, if anyone is interested. How He-Man Mastered the Universe.
Yes.
Look forward to reading this, Brian.
Yeah, I know that I've met him at the London Super Comic Convention not too long ago.
Yeah, I think that's where I saw him, too.
Yes. But I think he's back in the States, but I love how it says here on Amazon, it says he hails from Walla Walla, Washington. I love it.
The Little Giant Vacuum Cleaner Company of Walla Walla, Washington.
Yeah, he's also had essays on pop culture been posted on comicbookmedia.com. So, yeah, check it out. And you can go to some Amazon and your other fine online book retailers.
Oh, indubitably. I'm sure it's available in many different ways.
All right, is that anything else from previews? Does that wrap it up for us?
I think that does wrap it up.
Okay, you want to remind the listeners of the off-the-rack selections?
Okay, in reverse order, we're going to be talking about Mighty Mouse #1 from Dynamite Entertainment, Defenders #1 from Marvel, and Dark Days, dagnabbit, I've forgotten the precise title of that one-shot. Dark Days, The Forge,
Right.
#1 from DC. Those are our 3 off-the-rack picks for June.
All right, and once again, this episode is brought to you by Discount Comic Book Service. Go to dcbservice.com for all your pre-ordering needs.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can send it to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave a voicemail, you can call 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, where our handle is @comicgeekspeak. You can visit our forums at thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com to leave comments about this and many other episodes of our podcast. Share with us what you're planning to order from this month's previews catalog, what's got you excited, and also participate in comic book discussions with fellow listeners and fans of CGS that don't directly involve the show. We'd like to thank everyone who's donated monetarily to the show. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do the show without you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest listeners, one hero.
Oh, my God.
Sorry.
The world's mightiest heroes,
One listener at a time. I don't usually do this.
Not brain surgery.
Uniting the world.